Hey, this is Big Guy DIY Robert coming to you with another repair. This is a sled. This is actually my first snowmobile I bought brand new back in, I spring ordered it in 2000, so it's a 2001 MXZ 800 Adrenaline. The 800, this is the first year and first release of the 800. My Skidoo. I originally was putting my order in when I went to the shop for a 700 because the 800 was not available at the time. But when I got into the shop and started talking to the owner, he said, "Hey, you know, they just released the 800, so for an extra $200 you can get 800." So I jumped on it. So this 800 here, when they made them, they didn't come with electric start. You had to pull start it, which was an absolute bear to do when it was really, really cold out. And there was no mechanical or RER for reverse, forward and reverse. RER came out in 2003, so you could get the old MXZ chassis with RER or mechanical reverse at the time. So in 2003 or 2004, I had the shop add electric start to this because I just got sick and tired of pull starting it, especially on really cold mornings. It just wouldn't start, or it was a haul to get it done. And then 7 years ago, I guess it is, maybe, I added mechanical reverse. I thought about doing the RER, but what was involved in doing it, not all the parts were available, so I opted just to do the mechanical. Now when I special ordered this, I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what I'm talking about. So when I ordered the 800 at the time, I ordered it with the DPM because it came in two versions. They had a DPM and then they had one with just straight carburetors without the DPM. So I went for that. Also in 2001, that was the only year the belly pan came in red. The following year, it came in black. So this was black and then the top was red. And I'm glad I bought it at the time I did because I like the red bottom far more better than the black bottom. So what's nice about these old sleds is access to everything. You just open up the hood and boom, there you go. This sled is 100% stock. I didn't modify, except for mechanical, reverse forward, and the electric start. I have not modified anything. Still original clutches on this, original exhaust. It worked for the way I was riding and what I was doing. It worked, so there was no reason to change anything. That's my philosophy. I didn't need to make it better. Oh, I did add a riser. Being 6'3" when I was standing, the handlebars were at my kneecaps. So, but other things I did over time, I did the track extension. So now it's a 137 running a 1 1/4 ripsaw track. It's studded down the middle only. I removed all the studs that were on the outside of the track. I added the extension here. This part here I fabricated. I got up to this point here and then I kept busting the tube as I was bending it. So I ended up having a metal fabrication shop that's here near me in town. I gave them my original one, and so they could follow the exact pattern that I had, so the bumper fits as is. Originally, I was going to do an LED light on the tail end of this, so it would be small but very bright. But the power to these tail lights and the headlights are AC, alternating current. They are not DC, direct current. So I cannot do LEDs on this and have it work correctly. So I had to stick with the stock tail light. So 3 years ago, we were on a trip. I'm going to put this camera on the stand here. 3 years ago, we were on a trip, and when I got the sled off the trailer, I went to do a good hot lap around the snow at a place that we rented, and all of a sudden I heard a bang, and that was it. The sled stopped. It would not go in reverse, would not go forward. Now, I had a problem with it when my son was doing some wide open throttle runs across the lake the season before, but I thought maybe it's all right. Maybe he was just pushing it too hard. Because one thing is, when I put this gear case in, there's a spring that moves this cog back and forth inside the gear case. And if you went too fast on the snowmobile, like around 95, between 95 and 100, that spring would compress and then the sled would go out of gear. So I don't know if the spring is stressed, or maybe the mechanical reverse or mechanical gear case is not designed to be on an 800, but works better on a 700, because this came off a 2003 Skidoo 700 Legend snowmobile. It was a 2-up snowmobile, and so that's what it came off. And then there's a difference in horsepower between the two. So today I am taking the gear case apart after 3 years of this sled sitting in my garage, and I'm gonna show you how to do it, because with everything that I've added in here, it's become quite tight. So first thing you can see on the bottom here is the pan to drain the gear case. I will do that a little later. The nice thing about these old sleds, and I will show you, underneath it, there's actually a hole in there. It's about 1 inch in diameter. That allows you to remove a plug that's threaded. It's an Allen, it's a metric Allen wrench that you have to use to remove the plug to drain the gear case. And then to refill the gear case, that is done through the top, through the dipstick, which is down below in here, straight down. You have to use a funnel with a long stem that's over 12 inches long to get in here. So you can see some metal here. Over time, this is cracked, age. So I hammered out some aluminum here and did it on the other side to strengthen this up so nothing moves around, it stays solid. I did have an accident with this once, and I flipped end over end, and that did not help this situation at all. So first thing I have to remove is the battery, and then the next is the exhaust system and the muffler. My gear case is right here. You could technically get at the gear case without removing the muffler, but it's just best to remove all this stuff out. So let's remove the battery. I think it's 10 millimeters on this. Yeah, 10 millimeters. This battery is held in with a bungee. It goes across the top like so. But I already had taken that off. So in here, zoom in. That there is what the battery box, or the battery sits in. So that's the battery box. So this also has to be removed in order to get at it. Now it's held in 3 spots. You got 2 bolts on the back side here, but then there's a rod that goes in, and then it's bolted against the housing below the engine in here. So you'll need an extension. I believe this is 8 millimeters. Now to get the back bolt, I'm not going to go for that just yet. I'll get these two done. I'll have better access once I remove the muffler as well as the pipe. All right, there is a nut underneath there, so of course that's going to be 8 millimeter nut. I do not have an extra long wrench, so I just take a screwdriver with electric tape, tape it to it. There we go. Next is the pipe. Now, I know, because I've done it, quite a few years I had the typical screwdriver with the angle cut in. Let's just use this as an example, this screwdriver here, with the angle cut in to pull these springs off the muffler and exhaust. But as I went and got newer snowmobiles, I started ramming the crap out of my knuckles because the way the pipes are put into the newer sleds, into the chassis, say an XR, XM, XS chassis, access to these springs became a lot more difficult. So I ended up buying this tool, which is the spring pulling tool off of Amazon. Overall length is about 22, let's see, 12, probably 18 inches. I'll show you the tip on this. So you can see how you can grab a variety of springs depending on the brand of sled. What I like most about this is the length. I can get into really deep spots, especially in the XR chassis. So you got a spring in the front right of the muffler that's very deep. This reaches it. And two, with this big T handle, I got a lot more leverage and pull on this. So I like this spring setup, or this spring puller. On the muffler, there are 3 locations that are held. One is right here, and then down here there are 2 nuts right between the rope pull and the muffler itself. There are 2 nuts right there that you remove. 13 millimeters for the 2 nuts. So here's the other nut. That has to come off in order to remove the battery tray. That nut here also holds the main body of the gear case. One note, if you ever buy one of these old sleds to run around in your yard, there's an exhaust on it. It's rubber. These sleds tend to lose those a lot. So what I ended up doing with mine is actually gluing it in place with a rubber type cement, and the cement will glue to aluminum and rubber. And so I've actually retained this now probably for about 10 years, but every 2 years I'd have to get a new exhaust on it because it would fall off. There we go. I'm going to show you now underneath where the plug is for the gear case. And it's that hole right there. Let me see if I can get a light in there. I think you might be able to see the tip of the, yeah, so there's your plug that you gotta pull out. So let me pull that out. When you reinstall the drain plug, put a little Loctite on it, and don't put it in really tight. Just put it in snug. Because of expansion and contraction, it can get to a point where you won't be able to get it out. So there's your drain plug. Size, that's a good question. 8, 6, might be a 5 metric. It's definitely metric, I know that. So one thing I noticed as it was draining out is some water came out at the same time. But now it's just oil. Color is a little dark, but nothing that like surprises me. Oh, I see what happened. I see it. Blew my gear case open. Crack runs there, runs down on the front. Man, I don't even know if I can even get that gear case, this cover anymore. Well, let's take it off. It's gonna be one of those deals where it's gonna take me 2 years, 3 years to find the damn thing. All right, just grabbing a handful of tools here. I don't know what I need. So, in order for this to come off, the first thing that has to come off is there's a connecting rod. This connecting rod here has to come off first. That's my shifting rod. Doesn't even move. Oh, there we go. So we got to disconnect it from up here and then disconnect it from the bottom. You could just disconnect it from one spot and just turn it up, but I want it out of the way. Worst case scenario on a situation like this is if I can never find this, there is the option to switch it back to just having forward gear. Alright, well, somewhere there's a nut underneath there. So we'll put our bolt back there. Magnetic. This is not in an easy spot. It's one of those ones where you got to do it blindly. Alright. Last but not least, this one here. $14mm, I think. Nope. 13. Wow. The whole gear case blew up. I have a crack here and a crack here going into the back. So this whole thing is shot. As for the gears, this is your forward reverse cog. Feel the teeth are all ground out. Wow. The teeth on the this cog, this is what, I think how this works. This is part of your reverse mechanism. This is your reverse gear. So as you turn this on this handle, which turn the knob down here and change this to a different direction to hit this outside gear, and that would put it in reverse. And then here's the spring down here in the bottom I was talking about. Yeah, this is a bad one. Not sure where this goes. There it is. Nope. Can't go there. Nope. I know it can't go there because the bolt comes through that. And this is a solid on one end, hole in the other. Let me clean off my hands, and I'm going to bring the camera down and give you a better view inside here with a flashlight. Okay, see how the teeth are chewed off? That, when you go in reverse, that would slide out and it would hit. Let's see how we can do this. It would hit this lower gear. So, looking at the lower gear, see the teeth? So that's even shot. That's the gear that would put it into reverse. Looking at it more closely, I apologize for the shaking of the camera, but I'm trying to get a close-up. See the inside ring? So here's your outside ring, and look at the inside ring. The ring is worn out. As for the other split, there it is. And then the chain case is actually, zoom out a little here. The chain case is actually bent right here in that spot. That's the damage to the inside. So, knowing availability, there is a high probability that I have to get rid of this forward reverse setup. I'll have to call around, see if I can get a complete chain, everything, the whole kit and caboodle. But yeah, so that's how you take apart a chain case. And this is one of those worst case scenarios, like worst case. I would really hate to part this sled out. It just, because it was a 1-year sled for this color combination, and to part it out, I mean, just breaks my heart because there's a lot of sentimental value in this sled. That's why I've kept it for so long. So this video is gonna end for now, and I'll probably post this because I have no idea how long it'll take to find a chain case for this thing. A complete chain case. Okay, we're back at this sled. So let me show you where I'm at. I have not done anything. So it was all depressed when I opened it up, thinking, I really don't want to park this sled out. There's a lot of sentimental value to it, to me. So I did not want to lose it. But I really had zero or no confidence I would find a complete gear case for this 2001 MXZ. The sled has gotten to a point where finding parts are very difficult, especially, probably the hardest part I ever had to find for this was an oil tank. That took me probably a year to find, year and a half, till something finally came out in the market. And I had to drive 3 hours north into New Hampshire to meet up with someone. That was the midway point to pick up the tank. It was actually a tank from a 700, so I had to modify it. It was nothing big deal, just had to add an additional hole to the top side of the tank for a grommet to be installed, part of the whatever. I don't know exactly what the grommet connection is. Anyways, the evening when I took the sled apart, I went online and I typed in my sled, and what the hell, I found a complete gear case, front and back. So obviously I cannot use the current gears that are in the sled because they're all chewed up. So this gear case here is it's just the regular gear case, and it is from a 2001 MXZ 800. So we're gonna open this up. It's been sitting on my bench for 4 days. There's a message written on here. I'm trying to read it. But I don't think it applies to me. Wow. This guy packed it good. Put the gear case right in the center. This whole packing job. You put styrofoam in the bottom of the box to absorb any shock to it. Nice. I will have to definitely give this guy a very positive comment. gasket looks good. Everything's clean on here, like meaning it's not covered in oil. So they cleaned it. Chain looks good. So this gear here, because like I said, I replaced the original gear case. I did not replace the back when I converted it to a forward and reverse gear case. The back is identical to a forward reverse gear case. So the only thing that was changed was the cover and then the guts. But the one thing that I kept, or one thing I did change, is this top gear here. And this goes up here. This is a 26T. I think, I'll have to look. I think I dropped it down to like a 22 or 24. 23. So this is a 23. So I'm going to keep that 23 gear just because I have a longer track on there. But so here's your upper gear. How did this go? It goes this way. No. It goes this way. This chain on this gear case was loose. I can see the wear mark. I get rattled around here, and it actually cut into the gear case here. So that is actually a groove right there from the chain case. But then other than that, everything else looks good. But this is give you an idea. See there, it says 26T. The one I have currently is a 23T. This here, the top, is a little worn out. You can kind of see it in there, but that's okay. I'm not using this anyways. But yeah, so the sled's going to go back to being forward gear only. So I'm kind of ecstatic about that. Woohoo! So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take this gear case off, the back gear case, and I'm going to use the original, or the new one. I'm going to use the new one back to show you, you know, what you're removing and stuff from it. So looking at this from your angle, things that are going away is this whole top part, this whole assembly. then, so then we're going to take this off first. The wiring, obviously, I'm not going to need. That powered the beeper when it was put into reverse. And that attached to a switch here. So when this turned, it hit the switch. Interesting. So when this turned, it hit the switch, and then it would, you know, beep, beep, beep. So when you turn it like that, it would clunk in gear, and then this would beep out loud. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the top part, and then we will tackle the bottom part. So I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to let you watch as I take this apart. I will name the sockets as I go along. So 16 metric for this one. This is the tension nut. I'm taking tension off the spring right now. The size of that nut is 13/16. Magnetic. You see all the metal bits. Also the bolt for metric. I'm using a 21 socket, 21 metric socket. 30. I guess you could see that. The lower gear, this bottom gear, cracked in half. So here and here, here and here, it's cracked in half. Explains why I can't get any tension off the chain. It has expanded. So I will need pry bar, couple pry bars to try to get this off. This was the gear. You had your forward gear and then your reverse gear when the thing slid. This is from the lower gear that attaches to the track. So here's the top gear. This is the 23T, and I'll give a closer look at it. But there is no damage to this gear, so that's good. This though, yeah, I'd say that's no good. Right into the recycle bucket. So as you can see, the disc brake is attached to the chain case itself. These two top holes here. So these bolts I definitely have to save. As for holding it on, I think there's just 3 total. So I got one nut on the left side here. The other two I've already taken off. I can take this off. Now this one down here is my drive, my track drive. And as I pull this out, I don't know off the top of my head, because it's been a decade since I did this, if my track tension has to be loosened up or not. We're gonna find out the hard way. Well, I think I'm going to loosen up the track tension. It's not sliding on the lower thing, in the lower axle, the drive axle. So, I'm going to pause the video, loosen up my track. I'm going to raise the whole sled up a bit higher so my track's hanging. Right now I got the rear end of it sitting down on the ground with this like a logger spaced underneath it. Okay, I got it loose. I did not have to take off the locking ring there because I looked at the case that's replacing this. What was keeping it from coming off was this ring here. Was attached up here. Not attached, but it was wedged in there. Once this popped off, the whole case popped right out. I also put this big block underneath to kind of, so the sled sits on there so there's no tension with the track hanging. There's no tension on the track pulling it back on the drive axle down there. So we're going to put the camera back in place and pull this off. You can see here I blew it open. The bearings feel smooth. I'll compare that to the replacement, but I definitely want to clear up down here. Quite the mess. All right, I'm using a mic because my air duct is on, bringing warm air into the garage. So I want to be sure that you hear me over that thing running. So it's been 3 weeks since I've touched this gear case. So in those 3 weeks, I was waiting for one thing. This. I'll open it up if I can. Well, I can't. It's sealed. But a bolt. 3 weeks for a bolt. I bought it on eBay. I needed this one specific bolt for the gear case. The seller wasn't paying attention, and so when I bought it, he didn't ship it like he was supposed to. Then I sent him an email. He replied like 3 days later and said, sorry, I forgot to look, and are you still interested? And I said, yes, ship it right away, since I'm in the middle of something. Of course, he ships it the most possibly slowest way. So 3 weeks It's the time I bought it to the time I received it. But the good side is between that, we got a good nor'easter. We're having another one tonight. But a week and a half ago, I went snowmobiling. I thought I was all done for the season, and we got 14 inches up at the house, friend's house, and then another, I don't know, 20 inches or so, 18 to 20 inches up in the mountaintops. So it was unbelievable. So let's take a look at the gear case. So this here schematic I got offline. It's this is a picture from a 2001 MXZ 800 Chaincase. And so what I was missing is this bolt, because from the other gear case, this bolt here is a much longer. Cotter pins, had to get that. And then O-ring. When I took this collar off, which sits behind the gear case, this is actually the shaft. Where is it? It doesn't show it in the picture, but the upper shaft from the motor comes through it, and your disc brake sits behind here, and then it's the spacer and O-ring and this. So the O-ring, I didn't want to go searching for it, so what I ended up doing is my local hardware store. You can see the seat there the O-ring sits into. Went to my local hardware store, which they have an excellent selection of nuts, bolts, and O-rings. This is the original O-ring. And then this is what I found in the store. So fits in there perfectly. Right diameter. It'll work fine with oil and grease. This is the original bolt to the mechanical gear case. Mechanical meaning forward and reverse. Let me see if I can open this thing up with my teeth. And grease. Here's the new one. 3 weeks. It drives me crazy. So what I try to do before I put something back together is I just kind of do a dry assembly to see how things are going back together. One thing I am missing is the top part of that. I think I have it at the sled. But if you're switching mechanical reverse and forward to just a straight gear case, that's easy to find. But if you're doing the reverse, you're switching a regular gear case to mechanical gear case where you have forward and reverse, you have to do some searching for that schematic, where you have to look, as I was using Partzilla, PARTZilla.com for my schematics. And what you have to look in is actually a sled that would have that type of gear case. So for 2001, 2002, and 2003 was a Skidoo Grand, what was it, Grand Legend, I think it is. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but the Grand Legend. And then when you go into where they have lists of all the parts by names, this is not listed under gear case, the mechanical gear case. It's actually listed under transmission. So you got to look for the word transmission in order to get the mechanical chain case or gear case for that. So a little tidbit. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show, where I put my bag, is this. Cotter pins. There are a humongous amount of different cotter pins. Where are my cotter pins? O-rings. Oh, I know where they are. Cotter pins. You can buy cotter pins like in a packaging like this. This was bought at my local hardware store. It's a very basic cotter pin. It's not like a high-end cotter pin or a really strong cotter pin. They can break once you bend them a couple of times. This here is a good example of what they look like. Usually the ones that are soft are a lighter color, but you can buy stainless steel cotter pins. That's these. This is what I'll be using inside the gear case. These will last a hell of a lot longer and take a longer beating, and they won't wear out as much. Granted, this is just holding a nut in place, but as I'm saying, it doesn't wear out. So when you're buying cotter pins, know what material that you're buying before you install it. So that's important. All right. So we're going to set up the camera and get this all back together again. So I'm going to pause this and set the camera up. So here's that spacer with the O-ring, and that goes onto this shaft here. I wanted to do something first. Multi-purpose wheel bearing and chassis grease. Chassis grease. So I've already greased this slightly because I took off the disc brake to work on it. To not work on it's probably the wrong word. To clean up the drive shaft coming from the engine block. So I just want to put some extra grease on here, and then I wanted to do it down here on the lower one, just because the gear case does have a seal, rubber seal, that sits on here and the lower shaft, and I want that seal to slide on there without any issues. So based on the schematic, the O-ring faces out. Putting a little grease in here. And the O-ring is very stubborn when it comes to staying in, just to let you know. Now the fun part. Getting everything lined up. Goes back there. Bam. Here we go. So we got spacer. Here. Cover. Cover. Locking washer. And then the new bolt. Oh, and the new bolt supposed to have Loctite. So you can use orange or blue. Blue is medium strength, orange is high strength. I'm using orange. Spacer, gear. I just want to double check something here. All right. Your cotter pin lock nut. Now I'm not going to be able to get this really tight just because it'll turn the motor over. All right. Now we'll start securing the gear case down. You gotta remember is this battery box. All right, those two lower ones. So I know the battery box connects to this bolt and then a lower bolt that you can't see in camera, but my finger's on it. I'm gonna put the other bolt in here just so this gearbox is secured tightly, and then I can put some pressure on this to get this to tighten, and then drop in my cotter pin. All right. So, trick will be to stop the engine from spinning, turning over from I tighten that up. Alright, this is my chain adjuster. I'm taking that out so I can get the chain on. Wow, there we go. Put our chain adjuster back in, screw it in. I'm looking at this. One thing that surprises me is how close this gear, lower gear, is to the wall. Like, the chain doesn't sit on the gear. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to zoom the camera on this because I think I may modify this. Yeah, I said the word modify. Let me bring the camera down in closely and I'll show you exactly what I'm looking at. All right. See how close that gear is to the wall of the housing? And then if we this gear needs to come out, like I need to put a washer behind it to get the thing to come out at least 1/16 of an inch. And I even put a spacer behind it, even though it doesn't show you a spacer behind it. Because that's your locking ring. That's your collar that goes inside this bearing, and that bearing slides into there. So there is no spacer there, and I put one in. So I'm going to take that out and look at that carefully. I'm wondering if I have it. I gotta have, well, I do. I have the gear case flushed. And down there, gear case is flush. to the back. All right, so I'm going to pause this and I'm going to take this apart and take a look at that and see if I can get much better spacing there. So the chain, the edge of this chain doesn't hit here, because the old case you saw earlier in the video was all kind of chewed up because there was a lack of spacing there. So I'm gonna see what I can do to do that. So meanwhile, we're just gonna pause this. I think it must be like, okay, I figured it out. Where's my flashlight? All right, so now you can see there's a lot more spacing happening here. You can see now there's a lot more spacing here. What I did is, that's the collar, that's the spacer, and the gear originally was on this way, but see the part that sticks out? That part that sticks out, turn it around, flip it in, and now I get the spacing I need for the chain to go around. And then looking at the picture, they don't show that lip sticking out. So we're gonna work it that way. And I can see also, as I look at this, see that ring there? That ring is caused by that. So before I put this in, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to put the chain on it first and then slide it on. Put Loctite back on the bolt. I put this right here, which I can't. Putting in our chain adjuster. So I'm adjusting the chain right now, and you can see the sag here. This is what I'm trying to eliminate. And I only want like a 1/4 inch of play, between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. And when I move it, I should not be able to hit the top part of the casing. Yeah. There we go. Now on the adjustment for the chain case, there is a cotter pin that goes through the top here of the case. Actually, I'll bring the camera and show you. The top part of the case here, the cotter pin goes through here, and then as you look through that hole, you can see the hole in the bolt, the adjustment bolt. So this cotter pin where am I? Here we go. Cotter pin goes in this way. On there, light. Then putting the cotter pin in. It's going straight into the bolt. Like so. And it just prevents the bolt from backing out. That's the only purpose of it. Now, you don't have to put it through this. You don't want to. I mean, if it gets to a point where the hole doesn't line up, you can just put it through, because the cotter pin, you know, so has the locking lumps there. But I just do it this way. It stays there, no issues. Out of the way. So our gear case is now back in. Our new gear case is now back in. So the next thing we got to do is put the cover on this whole thing. Oh. One thing I did is I looked at the gasket very carefully to see if there are any breaks or cracks in this, and which there isn't. So this gasket is still good, this rubber gasket. while I was ordering new parts online, I also ordered new bolts. Ought to go into there as well. Might as well. That's the part number if you need it for these black bolts. It takes 2, 4, I think 4 altogether. Yeah, 4 altogether. These I'm going to drop in a little Loctite on them. I'm just using one to hold it in place. And then I'll do the Loctite on the other ones. Because this being all aluminum, I prefer not to use pneumatic tools. I know I used to take this nut off, but that was on there tight. I pretty much tighten these things all down by hand because aluminum strip easier compared to steel. So with aluminum, I have a feel for when I got it tight, but I'm not cranking on it, you know, looking for a foot-pounds of torque on a thing. All right, we are, for the most part, all done installing the new chain case. I don't need to show you how I reinstall the battery or everything else here that I've taken apart. But there we go, back to the original chain case. So to fill it up, if we look right there, here's my finger, that hole there, that's where the dipstick goes. Tells you your oil level. That is where you fill it up. But before you fill it up, you have to remember to put the plug in back on the bottom, the drain plug. The drain plug right now I know is out, and I have to somewhere find it. It's going to be in there, I believe. I believe. So, here we go. 2001 MXZ 800 Adrenaline extended to a 137 because it used to be a 121. That's how you change or repair the chain case. It's very, very simple, the original chain case. If you ever change it to a transmission, so for a mechanical transmission, so forward and reverse, it's kind of a pain in the butt because there are adjustments that you have to do in the case before you put the oil in there. And it might be a situation where you have to actually take the cover off, make the proper adjustments because of the way the gears slide out in order to get into gear. When I had put it in, I originally, yeah, it was convenient to back the sled off the trailer, but when you're running out like a wide open speed across a lake, it wouldn't stay in gear, it would pop out. So I'm kind of glad to go back to the original. I'm not going to have any issues with that anymore. So this is Big Guy DIY Robert signing off for this sled. Any questions, put them down in the comments. Any comments, put them down below. It helps others who may be looking at this video, working on their old sleds and want to know how to do it, or may have questions on doing it. That's it. Don't forget to subscribe, and please give me a thumbs up. It helps a lot. Thank you. Have a good one.